Okay, it's time for the posterior pituitary. So same objectives as the previous lecture. And with the posterior pituitary, it releases two hormones. It releases oxytocin, which has to do with uterine contractions and breast milk production and release. Release, not production. And vasopressin, which has to do with water balance. This might not come as a surprise, but we're only going to talk about vasopressin. So vasopressin is released when we have high concentration of salt. Okay, not content, not total amount of salt, but concentration. We have what are called osmoreceptors in our hypothalamus that sense sodium concentration. Okay, now remember with the posterior pituitary, the hormones that are released from the posterior pituitary are actually produced in the hypothalamus. So the posterior pituitary is a storage unit. Now, if I've got high concentration of salt, I want to hold on to as much water as I can. So this targets the kidneys and basically opens aquaporins up so that we reabsorb water that's in the collecting duct so it doesn't go into our bladder. Okay. As a result, if we hold on to water, it's like we're putting more fluid back into a water balloon, so we're increasing the pressure of the blood pressure. It also causes vasoconstriction. And by holding on to this water, it's decreasing sodium concentration, right? So if I'm adding water back into the bloodstream where I have high salt concentration, that's going to reduce the concentration, the overall concentration, right? It's going to make it more dilute. Now, during exercise, we release more vasopressin. And as the intensity increases, we release more vasopressin. As we train, though, we become desensitized to this a little bit, or we're more effective at it, so we actually don't release as much vasopressin. So how it works is like this. When I increase my intensity, I sweat more. When I sweat more, that means I'm losing more fluid. As a result, I have a higher salt concentration, which isn't great. We want our concentration to stay in the normal range. We don't want it to get too high. We don't want it to get too low. And so as a result, in an effort to minimize the changes in osmolarity, we release vasopressin. Okay, and as a result, we decrease our urine volume, which helps to minimize those swings in osmolarity, and it helps us maintain blood pressure. Okay, so if you think about this from just a blood pressure perspective, when I exercise, blood pressure goes up. Okay, that would increase blood flow to my kidneys. That's not what we want, it is what we want, but and then as a result, we have more fluid, more water going into the nephron. Well, because there's so much fluid going into the nephron, normally we would just put that in our bladder and we'd pee it out. We don't want that during exercise. And this has nothing to do with a competition standpoint. It's our body's realizing we need to conserve water, so we release vasopressin. So all that stuff that goes in the nephron, all that water that goes in the nephron, or at least most of it, we can reabsorb back into the bloodstream. So there you go.